Hello, welcome back once again. This is the fourth and final part of my class on John Keats' poem Ode to Autumn. I am sure that you are sitting with the text with you and you are looking at the poem. And in the previous classes, we have discussed the first two stanzas. Now we can proceed to the third stanza. And this is the final stanza of the poem. Uh, See, the third stanza of the poem deals with what the poet hears. It deals with the post-harvest music. Okay, as usual, I ask you to pause the video for the time being and read the third stanza silently, marking the difficult words. And you please try to understand the meaning of the third stanza. And you try to understand the ideas presented by the poet in the third stanza. Okay? Then I'll be back. Now, hope you have read the third stanza of the poem. Thus, Keats' poem Ode to Autumn deals with pre-harvest ripeness, late harvest abundance, and post-harvest music. Okay, now let us start the third stanza of the poem. See, there are many people who are enamored by the charming music of the spring season. Keats tells them that autumn season has got its own music too, which is as fascinating as that of the spring season. In addition to this stanza, the third stanza, final stanza of the poem, presents many beautiful sights too. Okay, let us read the third stanza of the poem. Look at the first line of the third stanza of the poem. Where are the songs of spring? Aye, where are they? What does the line mean? Where are the songs of the spring? Aye, where are they? Where is the melodious music of the spring season? Keats is asking where the melodious music of the spring season is. Spring is distinguished by or marked by the sweet songs of the birds like the cuckoo and the nightingale. Here, for a moment, we feel that the speaker or poet is the poet betrays a nostalgic yearning of the music of the spring season. Okay, second line. Think not of them, thou hast thy music too. Think not of them. Do not think about the songs of the spring. For a moment, the speaker or poet expresses a nostalgic yearning for the music of the spring season. But quickly he recovers because he says that autumn season has got its own music too, its own characteristic music. Okay. The next lines. While barred clouds bloom the soft dying day and touch the stubble plains with a rosy hue. It's a very beautiful picture. In the evening, the meaning is that in the evening, when bars of clouds touch the sky with a soft, warm glow, and the stubble plains are covered with a rosy mantle. Okay, see, barred clouds is a very beautiful expression. It means bars of clouds, clouds drawn out in long lines. It may mean streaks of clouds. And barred clouds, the poet says that barred clouds bloom the soft dying day. Bloom. Bloom means touch with a soft warm glow. The clouds are made bright by the rays of the setting sun, and they reflect a rosy color on the harvested plains below. The soft dying day, the time of sunset, when the sun sinks gently to its rest and leaves a glow in the west. While barred clouds bloom the softest dying day and touch the stubble plains with rosy hue. Stubble plains. Stubble plains is the cornfield where stems of corns are left sticking up after harvest. Rosy hue means crimson color, color of rose, reddish color. and touch the stubble plains with rosy color, rosy hue. See, the third stanza of the poem presents music, post harvest music, as well as some beautiful pictures. This is the beautiful picture. Then one may see the border clouds touched by the light of the setting sun. These clouds tinge the plains from which the corn has been reaped. The pleasant color of clouds seems to prolong the day after sunset and lends a rosy hue to the fields below. Okay, it is a very beautiful expression. Look at the next lines. Then, in a wailful choir, the small gnats moan among the river shallows, borne aloft, or singing as the light wind lives or dies. See, wailful choir is a small group of is a group of singers who mourn the death of the soft dying day. The small gnats form a band and chant a mournful song. Gnats are small two-winged flies. They are found flying in clusters in marshy places in the evening. Sallows are low trees or shrubs of the willow family growing on the river banks. And borne aloft means carried upward. Singing means brought low, falling downwards. The small gnats are either carried high or lowered to the level of water by the strength of the by the strength of the blowing wind. See, this is another beautiful image. After the sunset, one hears the mournful sound of gnats among the willows on the river banks. It seems that the gnats are mourning the death of the day, as the willows are carried upward or downward depending on the strength of the wind. The gnats on them are lifted or lowered. Okay, this is one of the sounds, one of the musics of the autumn season. So, in the third stanza, we see that Keats creates a background of mellow music and rosy plains. Now we can look at the rest of lines. And full grown lambs loud bleat from hilly bourne. Hedge crickets sing, and now with treble soft, the redbreasts whistles from a garden croft, and gathering swallows titter in the skies. See, one also hears the lamb bleating loudly from the hills, and we can also hear the high pitched songs of hedge crickets. Then, the songs of the robin redbreasts from the orchard can be heard. Finally, the twitter of the migratory swallows is also heard in the autumn season. So, the autumn season, post harvest, the autumn season is full of music after harvest. So we have a lot of music in the autumn season after harvest. The third stanza thus describes the sounds of the autumn season. Autumn has got its own music too. When the setting sun casts a rosy hue over the earth in the evenings, the small gnats set up a mournful chant among the river shallows. Then full grown lambs bleat, the hedge crickets sing, the redbreast whistles, and the swallows gather and titter in the skies. Look, and full grown lambs loud bleat from the hilly bourne. Bourne means boundary. Then hedge crickets. Hedge crickets are grasshoppers, jumping and chirping insects often found on hedges. And now with the treble soft. Treble soft means high pitched voice, a note of music sung at the highest pitch, sweet shrill note. See, and gathering swallows titter in the skies. The swallows gather and titter in the skies. Swallows that fly in flocks are gathered together in preparation for their migration to a warmer place at the approach of the winter. So, Keats is suggesting that the winter is approaching. That is why he has mentioned the tittering, gathering and tittering of swallows in the skies. And we can see that this poem, Ode to Autumn, is distinguished for its sensuousness. Here, sensuousness is highly pronounced, and Ode to Autumn is very objective and impersonal. It is a representation of nature's beauty as it is. Keats, as a nature poet, has sensualized nature, whereas Wordsworth has spiritualized nature and Coleridge has intellectualized nature. Let me say, Keats is a lover of beauty in all its aspects, and he apprehends beauty with his five senses. So, his nature poems, like Ode to Autumn, is extremely sensuous. As I have already said, we can say that he has sensualized nature. In Keats, the sentiment of nature is simpler and more direct compared to what we find in Wordsworth and what we find in Shelley. As I mentioned earlier, in this poem, sensuousness is quite pronounced. The pictures of the cottage trees bending with the weight of apples and of the reaper asleep on a half-reaped furrow appeal to the eyes and other senses. The music of the gnats, the fume of poppies, and the clammy cells overflowing with the honey represent the other senses too. So, in short, we can say that Keats' five senses are quite sharp and it is evident in the poem. Thus, to sum up, we can say that as we have already found, the poem is divided into three stanzas. The poem has got only three stanzas. It is a short poem. The first stanza deals with the pre harvest ripeness, the second with the late harvest abundance, and the third with the post harvest natural music. In other words, as critics say, the first stanza is a symphony of color, the second a symphony of movement, and the third, of course, a symphony of sound. This is indeed a well crafted poem. It is a flawless poem in that we find in the poem the author's disciplined powers of observation and imagination, and of course, is the power of craftsmanship. Yeah, now it is time for me to wind up. We have looked into all the stanzas of the poem in detail, and we have discussed the entire poem. I think you have got some ideas of the poem. Now you read the poem and you write your own appreciation of the poem. I'll write my own brief appreciation of the poem and send to you, and that may help you prepare for the examinations. So I'm winding up. Now, take care, and we can meet again virtually in the next video. Till then, bye and have a nice time. Thank you very much.